Good morning, it's a little after 8 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. To all stand, we'll have the pledge and then let the prayer begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we come before you this morning asking you to cleanse our heart and our minds that we might perfectly love you. Lord, keep us humble. Help us to think of others, not just ourselves. Keep our words gentle and kind so that we might make a difference to those around us. Be with the commissioners this morning as they take up the business of the county. Fill them with humility and your wisdom. Amen. Thank
Okay, before we go into the agenda items, I'm going to explain the new rules and procedures that we adopted at our last meeting, just so we know them up front. As you notice, the public comment is not on the agenda at the top and the bottom. The new procedures change the public comment to deal with the topic at the time the topic's being discussed by the commissioners. So with that being said, the way it'll work is when we have a topic on the agenda, it will be open for discussion amongst the commissioners, and then it will be open to the public for public comment or open discussion. The rules will apply just like they always have. It's still a 3-minute time limit. It is strictly to the topic we're on at that time, and obviously that's my discretion. So if it gets off topic, I'm going to stop you and ask you to quit. And I'm also going to be the one that keeps the time, so when we come to that time limit, I'll let you know that as well. It's specifically for what we're discussing at the time. So there will be time to discuss everything that's on the agenda, just like there was prior to the start of the agenda. It will only be discussed as we're discussing it as the commissioners and not before. So I want to make sure that that's all clear to everybody before we start. With that being said, the first item on the agenda is the consideration of the roaming bisons WECS agreements. These are agreements that have been presented to the county commissioners by the roaming bison group, and there are 4 different agreements. There's the economic development agreement, the land use, the decommissioning, and the I believe this is what the roads.
Yeah, 3 agreements.
3 agreements, yeah. So those are the 3 agreements that have been presented. They're up for this morning for discussion. Obviously, as you guys are well aware, the way this works, this gives us the opportunity to sit here and have our open discussion amongst each other and discuss what we think as far as how these agreements look to us and what can be issues or what can be problems in them going forward and what needs to be changed, maybe in our opinion. And then, like I said, so once we're done, it'll be opened up to the public for discussion and questions, and then we'll move on from there to the next agenda item after each item is addressed. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up for discussion amongst the 3 of us, and I guess I can start out a little bit by leading into saying the fact that the agreements do have some concerns to me, some things that I have looked over and some things I've thought about, and some things I would like to see as discussion points this morning for us. In each and every one of them, obviously in all 3 of the agreements, one of the biggest things that raises concern to me is the fact about the vested, the part about the vesting and stuff is under all 3 agreements, which locks us into I believe it's a 5-year category where we are not able to proceed and make changes in such things like that. So that obviously becomes a concern, and it is in all 3. But if you look under 3.03 of the Economic Development Agreement, it talks about tax abatement, and I guess my concern with that is fact there is it is an agreement, and we don't control the tax abatement as far as Montgomery County. The county council controls that, so therefore think that's kind of saying that you basically are putting something in agreement we don't even know that is a possibility of being, needed or going through. So that should probably be presented to county council or we're into an agreement with us. 7.01 of the economic development agreement talks about the accelerated vesting that I was referring to. The agreement should probably be something that is at a little shorter time frame when we get closer to time for permits and ready to apply for permits. Basically, if I guess my thinking there is the fact that we get a little closer to that time frame, then there might not be the necessary. It might not be necessary for them to ask for that vesting and needing to make changes to the agreement. We're so far out there and stuff on some of this that if we continue to do that, then we might not need to have that implemented in there if it's closer to the time. Also, when you go to doing things like that too, you're also taking the ability of maybe trying to change the, not just the commissioners, but the council and all that kind of stuff. The elected officials can change over time and things, and if you're locking things into a period of time, you're also locking in future elected officials, whether it's council commissioners or what it may be, to things that maybe shouldn't be locked in down the road that far. To my knowledge, under Section 1D of the road use, no detailed maps have been provided. I know it says that there's a 180-day period in there that they could be provided prior to. However, I think that's something that's very important. It's something we probably should have some kind of an idea on sooner rather than later. Under Section 19, obviously, again, it's under the road use one, the accelerated investing, which I already talked about, the 5-year period. Decommissioning under number 1 of the decommissioning agreement. It gives roaming bison up to 12 months after the abandonment to remove the structures. Under Chapter 15 of our ordinance says that the towers and other facilities must be removed promptly, demolished, and removed. So basically, if you give that 12 months period, it doesn't really apply with what we put in our ordinance, and the fact that it sets idle for 12 months, and then it takes another 12 months to decommission, so you're into a 2-year period there. That does raise a concern to have something set in idle that's not being used for that period of time. Under 4C, agreement allows roaming bison to adjust financial assurance every 5 years. Once again, that does not abide by the Chapter 155. Chapter 155 says the data will be reviewed every 5 years. That review by the building commissioner and adjusted financial assurance up or down. And then again, under number 10, it talks about the accelerated vesting and the decommissioning one as well. In my opinion, I would expect, I guess, that the agreements come back to us with full compliance with Chapter 155 of the ordinance that we provided, and these things be looked at and adjustments be made for future. It's our job as far as commissioners to look out for Montgomery County, for the financial side of Montgomery County, as well as for the taxpayers and the needs and what they have expressed concerns about. And I think that we have heard plenty of concerns about at least a few of the points I've talked about, if not all, probably some of the things you guys want to talk about.
This has been a really good process to go through. It's identified some pretty big flaws, obviously, in this. I think what we had got here written years ago anyway. But, obviously the best thing, we need to keep this stuff current, in my opinion. I think this, in my mind, is not acceptable, especially the way it's written now. So that's where I'm at.
I don't disagree with anything that either of you have said. I think we're pretty much on the same page as far as the decommissioning, the economic development issues. That I don't see any point in cluttering up the language in this thing. If the council is going to give an abatement, or if they are not going to give an abatement, let's find out what the council is no tax abatement, we get $250,000 for 60 days, and then $4.5 million paid when construction begins. And then with tax abatement, we get $250,000 within 60 days, or $9 million. So I think these numbers, they just clutter up the language of the agreement. So I think, personally, if I were Roman Bison, I would get on the council's agenda and see what they want to do as far as abatement goes. I mean, there's not a lot of talk about it, but till they vote on it, you don't know. So I think it needs to go back to them on that aspect of it. On the decommissioning, I think the county is at risk. We're risking some future generations based on scrap values today. I know it can be reviewed every 5 years, I think, according to the proposal that Roman Bison put out. We could put the county at risk $7 or $8 million. So at the end of the day, what do we got left out of the $9 million? Basically nothing. So I just think it needs to be cleaned up and go through the proper process. It would be very nice to have some maps so we know somewhat of the placement of these things ahead of time. I don't want to come into a meeting like today and, we had the agreement before us, and oh, by the way, there's a windmill here. I think we need to study this stuff more than what they've got written in the agreement. So I think it's going far enough now that it's time to see some of this stuff for us today, quickly. I think in this whole process, the three of us, we want to see fairness to all the residents of Montgomery County. We want to see fairness to the landowners considering the offerings that the wind energy conversion system people have presented. We want to see fairness to those homeowners and landowners who have no interest in considering the offerings. We want to see fairness to those county employees who will be dealing with the implementation of any of the agreements that we might agree upon. We want to see fairness to the companies wanting to invest in this county. And last but not least, we want to see fairness for future generations who want to call Montgomery County their home. So I think, we need to consider all aspects of this. There's the for and the against, and what's in the middle. I guess we don't talk much about middle ground. We talk about the extremes. So I think until we know exactly what's being presented to us in a physical fashion, it's very difficult to sit here and make decisions based on potential agreements. So I guess to roaming Bison, I would say get on the council's agenda before I'm going to do anything with these.
You talked about extremes and we have no ability to stop these, so that's not, that extreme is not an option today, the way it stands. So these agreements are the only tool we have to definitely protect the taxpayers of this community and the citizens.
I agree, Phil, with what you're any comments there as far as the process to move forward. Obviously, the tax abatement is one big thing that jumps out at you as soon as you start reading, as well as the fact of some of this stuff that has been kind of unknown and still unknown. It's time that if we're looking to sign these agreements and move forward with them, that they move forward with some of this information that is kind of unclear and kind of foggy to us. It's really like I said, there's just a lot of this that's not in compliance with our Chapter 155 of the ordinance that we passed. And if we're not going to stand behind an ordinance that we put in place, then I guess why make ordinances if we're not going to stand behind them and stuff? And in my opinion, with some of the things that we've talked about, and there's some other smaller stuff in there that could probably be discussed, but if we're we're not going to stand behind the ordinance, and there's no need to write it, and our main job is, what the interest of Montgomery County is, not what the interest of the companies are, whether it's the roaming bison or other economic development companies that might come forward. We have to look out for Montgomery County as we're moving forward with this stuff.
Well, let me give you a good example of what I'm kind of leaning on here. We've been talking a lot the last several meetings about an overall transportation plan for this county. We've got our engineer, Jim Beck, drawing up some ideas and passing them by us. We're looking at some thoroughfare improvements and so on. And right now, I have no idea what roads they're even talking about driving down. So until I know the placement of some of these turbines, I mean, we're just throwing good money after bad at this point in time. We've got a lot of money wrapped up in this project today, just through attorney bills. Since 2009, we've been paying attorneys to look at this. And, John, you've been working on this comprehensive plan, and it's expensive when we start talking about items like this. And when we look at both extremes of the comments, the pro and the con. So we need something, to Jimmy's point. If we're going to follow an ordinance, then let's follow it. If 155 needs clarification, then I guess we'll spend more attorney money and make sure that Taylor and their attorneys talk, because I don't see a point in approving an agreement that is contrary to the ordinance that we have in place today.
Anything else, John? Okay, at this time, any comments from the audience?
Morning, Jim. Mark Davis, County Council. I'm going to stick to one point, which is, I think, falls under the concern of the council, and that is the decommissioning. That's been one of my concerns from the very beginning, because it's obvious that wind farms are not a long-term industry. They claim somewhere around 20, maybe 25 years before they either need to be completely removed or completely rebuilt. And the cost of that is just a huge unknown, not only to me and to you three and to the full council, but it's an unknown to these companies. When I quizzed Erin from roaming bison a month ago, her claim was that, well, you could maybe even make money decommissioning them. It could be profitable to decommission them. And then you look elsewhere and you see upwards of $500,000 to $1 million per tower the cost to decommission one. Now that's a big spread between making money to spending $1 million a piece for 100 towers. I don't think it would cost $1 million a piece. But the real problem is in figuring that value is to realize that we're talking 20 years in the future. For instance, 20 years ago, I could hire a triaxle truck to haul a load for me for less than $50. Now it's more than $100 for a truck. So, we have to figure what inflation will do to the cost of the labor and the equipment that it will take to get rid of these things. And, the scrap iron, it's such a fluctuating value to that it's really hard to know what the value will be in 20 years. We may not even be using iron in 20 years. Look how fast our economy is changing and things change in our society. So, to me, that is a major liability risk that I don't to assume on a whim. So I think there's a lot, and the other factor is I've tried to find where an entire wind farm has been decommissioned. I don't think it's really happened yet. You know, no one has taken an entire 100 turbine wind farm and decommissioned it to see what the cost is. Now, you know,
That's your time, Mark, thanks.
they have projections of how long it would, what it would cost to decommission the whole wind farm, but they don't have projections of what it would cost to remove a single tower here and there, which I think really throws another loop in there. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Seth Al, Arlington. You guys pretty well hit on everything that I was going to say today. I appreciate the thought you guys have put into this and, you know, following the ordinance that you guys have set out. And a couple of things you guys hit on. And I think you're right on. There's tons and tons of information that we need before they begin on this. And if you just look at the very first paragraph of 15507 in the ordinance, it reads as follows. No entity or person may construct, own, or operate a WECS project in Montgomery County without first obtaining a WECS building permit from the building commissioners, entering into your EDA and your road use agreements. But then it follows, the last line is to begin the WECS approval process, the following information must be submitted. And that's when it gets into a litany of items. It's talking nameplates of each of the manufacturers, maximum heights. Like you said, a very detailed map, list of names of owners, who's going to be building these things, where they're going to be at. And it's page after page of that information. And to your guys' point, I don't see how we can possibly enter into agreements without knowing what we're agreeing on. And you hit on the road use agreement. That's vital. We got to know what roads they're going to use, and they got to put in plans to us on videotaping or something, existing conditions of all that. You know, there's a lot that has to happen there. The EDA is super important. I mean, we can't possibly say we'll take this much money for loss of any future development if we don't know where we're going to be losing our future development. I mean, we know that, and I've hit on this prior before, we know what Tipton County did, and they all regret it. We have video evidence of their commissioners saying, we got $48 an acre to lose 25,000 acres. It was a terrible deal. I just would hate to see you guys get into that kind of agreement without knowing exactly what you'll be losing in this county. That's pretty much it. You guys have pretty well covered everything. As far as Mr. Bane even mentioned, it would be nice to know where these are going. It actually ends on almost every section. It ends that these wind farms have to be individually negotiated, which tells me they have to define the scope of their project. So we have to know where they're going. It's not just nice. So we have to say, hey, here's the project we're agreeing to right now in front of us. We have to know where they're going and everything. So within your own ordinance, it tells us that if they're beyond that point, they have to restart this process because it's an individually negotiated. So I believe that's pretty well all I have. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I got one other clarification, I guess, on the size of the towers. I know we've had numerous meetings in the past talking about 600 feet or 400 feet, various heights. But in the proposal that Rolling Bison put out, they said 89 meters to the hub height. And doing the math on that, that's 291 feet to the hub. Now the span of the propellers is 416 feet. So I guess you add half of that to this. If you look at it. Yeah. So they did provide us with that information, I guess is what I'm saying. I just need more.
Come on up.
April Johnson, Madison Township, and after all these times I've spoken, I'm still faint of heart. Thank you, Mr. Bane, for talking about the future of our county. I really appreciate that you considered that, because we don't know what new businesses are coming. There's lots of little businesses, and one new one right around the corner from us that's getting started out of our house, and I think that's pretty cool. So with that, I want to ask if you reconsider the 5 acres. That's rather arbitrary for having setbacks for only people with 5 acres or less. Because we have a lot of people at 5 acres or more, and you never know where economic development is going to happen on those 5 acres or beyond. Whether it's a cornfield now or not, you never know what's down the road. So please, I do believe that it's probably unconstitutional to infringe on property, no matter what size it is. And with those setbacks, there would also come some protections for schools and businesses. And right now, there are no protections for schools and businesses unless I'm misunderstanding that. I do know that there's already families who have left and families planning to leave with these coming in. That also affects the county finances and the budget. When you have a family of 5, that's 3 children that will not be attending the schools, and with that, that's a financial consequence for the school budget. And as I just recently, Roman Bison's doing a lot of online Facebook blitzing, and so I went to their website, and they continue touting the study about property values not going down. So with the 51,000 homes that they study, less than 3% of those are within 1 mile of a turbine. And let's see, 0.6% of those are within 2,650 feet. And so they really didn't include the people like us that are speaking out. So please consider that. Property values are important, and that can really financially devastate a lot of people, which also adds to the economic issues in this county. Thank you for listening to us, and again, Mr. Bane, thank you for considering the future of our county.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And could you clarify the school situation? I know we had some statements made in previous meetings about you could be out mowing your lawn, there could be a wind turbine above you on like on a schoolyard. Is that true or not?
As your ordinance is currently written now, and again, you have noise buffer distances, which would keep all turbines away from those property lines, but again, we can review any issues, and you guys can make changes as you move forward if it needs review, and you want to talk more about it.
Before you start, the 5, I've explained this 5 acre idea before. The thought being it was adding additional protection to those homeowners who own an acre and have a house on it. It was not intended to be something that was going to create more of a problem. It was something that's supposed to give you more of a buffer. So if there's, to Dan's point, if there's something wrong with that thought process, I can talk about it. But my other point with that was I thought it was discriminating to the larger landowner that owned 640 acres, and you wanted to measure from his property line. I feel like that is wrong when it's agricultural ground anyway. You have the right to build a house way back on the far corner if you wish, but the likelihood of that happening is probably not valid.
Hey, Judy Redmond, with my address from
Yeah, that's fine.
6078 West, 450 North, Crawfordsville, and you just hit on part of what I was going to say. I have 15 acres. I have plans to try and start a miniature horse farm. With the wind farms, I am not going to put my animals at risk because of what few studies that I have read about the health of the animals, horses becoming lame and born dead, and I'm not going to put my animals or myself through that just to see if it's true. If the wind towers become a reality, I have plans to move my whole shebang clean out of the state of Indiana. And I will not sell my property. I probably will not rent out my property. So that's going to be property that's going to be set sitting there, not drawing you any income other than my yearly property taxes. I may be the only one in the area that feels that way, but that's me. My animals are my family, but my family's grown and gone. So, and they do stand behind my decision, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Jay Halkelt, I live in Darlington, Indiana, and the Fifth Amendment of the Bill of Rights, this ordinance doesn't reflect that, but the 5 acres or more, you're infringing on property rights. And the COO has also stated that if 1,500 feet was from the setbacks, it would severely impact their project. So I think for the ordinance, it should be reconsidered, and the Fifth Amendment should be not infringed upon. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Bill Donald, 5064 North US Highway 231, Crawfordsville. I couldn't hear everything that everybody said, but I did hear some things. And with regard to the ordinance 2018-4, that this process would be approved under, I believe it's terribly inadequate. It does not protect the health, safety, and property rights of the citizens. Health and safety, we should have 2640 minimum setback distance. As regard to the differences between non-participating landowners that have 5 acres or less, or those that have more than 5 acres, in either case, I don't think 1,400 or 1,500 feet is a safe distance, especially from the structure. You can't go out to the edge of the property and have protection. And as regards to those that have more than 5 acres, you're taking away the right of people to use their property. We can't predict what they might or might not do. They should have the right to build a house where they want to build a house. They should have a right to play in that area if they want to play in that area. You can't say, well, most people might not do that. You have to give them the right. And that's what I think is important. Thank you.
Thank you. This is not supposed to be an argumentative deal, as Jim's pointed out in the past, but I think we're at the point in this conversation where we got to recognize the rights of the other people who want to maybe have one on their farm. So when we talk about people's rights, it's not only those with 1 acre, 5 acres, it's the people with 640 or 1,200 or whatever the acreage may be also have rights. So that's what the 3 of us have been struggling with, is trying to get to some middle ground here where